My name is Mark Sturbank. I'm the Director of Jazz Studies here at Charleston Southern University. I'm also the coordinator and director of the Summer Music Jazz Camp. And I'm really excited to present this ensemble to you this afternoon. Obviously, you all know the folks that are on stage in front of you. This is awesome. Thanks so much for sharing them with us this week and for choosing Charleston Southern Summer Music Camp. I am joined in my endeavors, in my directing. My co-director is in the back of the room. You're going to hear more from him in a little bit, Mr. Jonathan Hernandez, band director over at Camden High School. And we have some camp counselors that have worked with us all week and have shepherded the kids through the week, and they get an opportunity to get up on the podium as well. Our head dorm counselor and male counselor is Mr. David Dixon, who's going to be we also have, and you'll see him playing in the back there, Mr. Sam Downing. And here in the trombone, these older kids on the right. This is Mr. David Jenkins and Mr. David Beckley. Please. Two of the trombonists from the CSU Jazz Band. David Jenkins is a mathematics major. Financial management, a little more specific. Mr. David Beckley is aeronautics, or professional pilot, which, one of the two? Professional pilot major here at CSU. So we're proud of both of them, and I'm really excited about, this is the third year of the camp in this format, where we've been working together with a team like this, collaborating with Mr. Hernandez, who I'm proud to say is one of our graduates from CSU, one of my personal students. He's a saxophonist as well, so I got to spend 4 years working with him and seeing him grow and develop as not only a player, but as an educator, and he's just doing a fantastic job, not only in our community as an educator, but statewide, as he's become actively involved in the statewide jazz education scene. So very proud of that. And very proud of the work that these young folks have been doing this week. We've got a really interesting program prepared for you, some music that they can tell you really challenged them at times. And I've really enjoyed seeing you guys and girls rise to the challenge. And so I'm really excited to hear this concert, and I know you'll enjoy it as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the baton over to Mr. David Dixon, as well as the microphone, because he's got some more stuff to tell you about what they're about to do. David Dixon.
I've been practicing this for like 2 days, alright? So if I stutter, bear with me. As he said, my name is David Dixon. I am the head dorm counselor for the Charleston Southern Summer Music Camp. So every year, for the 3 years that this has been a thing, we've had the students decide on a band name, right? And this year, we decided to come up with a word that's a combination between 2 words, funk and summer. And so now, performing a song called Caravan, I introduce Famba.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A very exciting piece featured Mr. Brody Pellman on the trombone, Mr. Freddie Cleese on the drums. There he is back there. If I missed anybody, I'm going to catch you in a little bit. So throughout the program, I'll be also introducing the rest of the band. So after this piece, we will. For this, I'm going to share the podium again with this next young man who is a student here at CSU, music education, a budding educator, and also drummer for our jazz ensemble this coming fall. So please put your hands together for Mr. Sam Downing.
Well, so our next piece will be entitled The Wiggle Walk. It is by Ben Carter. It was arranged for the Cowboys of
Mason Dorman on the piano, Sebastian Tanke on the tenor saxophone, Clinton Lee on the trumpet. Awesome playing. Also going to put my memory to the test, and as promised, what I like to do at a concert is be sure to, of course, acknowledge the soloists, but I also want to say and acknowledge each of the players, because in a jazz ensemble, each player is an integral part of what's going on, even if they don't improvise and stand and come to the front. So I'm going to do it by section, not all at once. I'll do a little bit before this piece and a little bit after. I'm going to start with the biggest section first, and that's our saxophone section, which is actually almost a double section. Usually a saxophone section is 5, ours is 9. So we're going to start. I'll just start right here across the front. This is Aidan Klepper on the baritone saxophone. There you go. Braden Barfield on the tenor saxophone. Dylan James on the alto saxophone. Matt Stein on the alto saxophone. And as I said, Sebastian Tange on the tenor saxophone. Tyler Ensminger on the alto saxophone. Bella Maines on the alto saxophone. Alexia Gontifo. Lexi St. Amand on the tenor saxophone. She came in to play alto, and we asked her if she would step in and add to the tenors, since there's so many altos and so few tenors, and she said, yeah, I'll do it. So, very proud of her for doing that as well.
All right.
Yes. We are going to play one of my favorite songs. It was a pick by Mr. Hernandez, but this is Ahmad Jamal's Poinciana, and it's such a cool arrangement, and I know you'll enjoy it. It's Max Ramirez Cervantes on the trumpets. And Alexia Gontijo on the alto saxophone. I'm going to do the brass section now. I'll start in the back and come to the front. That's Mr. Clinton Lee on the trumpet. Mr. Max Ramirez Cervantes on the trumpet. Mr. Lucas Borlander on the trumpet. Mr. Ryan Laidlaw on the trumpet. Ryan. Of course, I introduced these guys, but David Beckley and David Jenkins from CSU on the trombone. This is Brody Pelno again on the trombone, and Troy Owen, completing our brass section. Actually, while I'm at it, we might as well do the rest. In the back, in the rhythm section, we've got an interesting thing, and we do these things in camp. We've got almost a double section. Actually, we do have a double section. 2 basses, 2 pianos, 2 percussions. So I'm going to start with the bassist. We've got Liam Nelson on electric bass. We've got Alexander Lundstrom on double bass. We've got Mason Dorman on piano and keyboard. We've got John Owens on piano and keyboard. Of course, we've got back on percussion and vibraphones and drums, Mr. Janelle Gray. And last but not least, Mr. Freddie Please, also on percussion, drums, and vibraphones. So 21 students plus our CSU students makes 23. So usually a jazz band is 17. So we're right in there. We're very proud of the sound that they're making and really have enjoyed working with them. And so at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to my counterpart, co-director, who's going to tell you some more about what they're going to do. This is Mr. Johnny Hernandez.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh, I think we can do better. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm like Baptist church. Say it loud, say it proud.
Ain't it?
Guys, we're going to move into something that a few of our students worked on their own. So throughout this past week, for about 6 hours each day, broken up into 3 different rehearsal blocks, the full band rehearsed. And in between those rehearsal blocks, kids went to different things like electives, whether it be world drumming, steel pans, music theory, all that. And they had recreation time in the afternoon where they could cut loose and run around for a little bit. But we had a few students within our group that really wanted to dig in on some small ensemble, or what we call in the jazz world a lot, combo related stuff. And so we have a few students that took some time to put something together. They performed it for Professor Sturbank and I, and the first day they performed, we were like, ooh, I don't know, I might need to take some more time to practice. And they took it for real, and they went and shed that stuff, and it sounds awesome, guys. So I'm going to actually pass the phone over to Mr. Freddie back on the drum set. He's going to talk about the piece that they're going to play, and he's going to introduce the members of the band and the name of their combo. You're going to love it. But here is Mr. Freddie on drum set.
Hi, my name is Freddie Fleece. I'm going to be a senior at Stratford High School. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the song that we're playing. It's a piece by John Coltrane entitled Impressions. It's kind of a fast, upbeat, swinging chart. And one cool thing about this song is that there's only 2 chords, but you wouldn't know it just by hearing it. So when you're listening, I want you to listen for those 2 different chords. And yeah, so, you know, in the jazz world, obviously these small groups are called combos. And so for our combo, we were really trying to dig into like, what does it mean to be a combo? And so we came up with the name Large Fries and a Drink. So without further ado, this is Impression.
Again, so that was Max on trumpet. That was Sebastian on tenor saxophone, Alex on bass, Freddie on drum set, and Mason on piano. Round of applause for them again.
Yeah.
So guys, we got a couple more songs for you. We're gonna move into this next piece called Fried Pies. Wes Montgomery, classic blues stuff. Hope you enjoy again Fried Pies. And this is gonna feature Sebastian on tenor saxophone, Matt on alto saxophone, Clinton on trumpet, and Janelle on vibraphone. Fried Pies. final closing remarks before I go off to the final song and talk about the last song. Again, thank you for bringing your kids to the Charleston Southern Summer Music Camp. Like Professor Sturbank was saying earlier, this is the third year that we've been able to do this jazz band in this iteration. In past years, this ensemble would have just been an elective, so they would have only met 1 hour a week, or 1 hour a day for the whole week, and then we put on a concert on today as we normally would. But to have this, be able to do it for a full day and actually really dig into some music and really talk about jazz, because jazz is such a beautiful language.
Yes,
we
sir.
live in a city where jazz is prominent, and I feel like you can't live in Charleston and not play jazz. You can't live in South Carolina and not play jazz. For that matter, jazz is America's classical music. You can't live in America and not play jazz music. So I'm really glad that Dr. Forrester and Dr. Holland and Professor Sturbank have allowed us to have a band like this. So round of applause for the name jazz. I told the kids yesterday at our last rehearsal, if they're in a jazz band after school, continue to be in their jazz band after school, because this is good stuff. If they're not in a jazz band after school, and there is one, join the jazz band. I tell my kids at my school, whatever class you have there, it's not as important as jazz. Get in the jazz band, let's go. We'll figure it out later. Online class, we'll figure it out. But in all seriousness, if they can be in a jazz band, get them in a jazz band. If it's before school, after school, it's a class, get them in jazz band. This is such a different language. And I was telling Professor Sturbank earlier, this is a collaborative language. You can't do it. You have to immerse yourself in the culture itself. So they can be in a jazz band, get them in a jazz band. But if their school doesn't have a jazz band, which is the case for a lot of schools, there's lots of avenues around the whole state that will allow them to be in some sort of jazz program. I know down here in the Low Country, we have the Charleston Jazz Academy, where students can go over to the academy and plug in and be with some of the best musicians in our area. I know Professor Sturbank has done stuff over there. Piano player like Nolan Tecklenburg, Rhett Ballinger, all those cats are playing over there and helping out those kids. So plug in there. I know Greenville has the Greenville Collective. I know Dr. Terranova at Coastal Carolina is working on getting something started over there for my Horry County kids. Hilton Head has their jazz academy over there. There's places all over the state for your kids to plug in, whether they're in a jazz band or not. So keep them in jazz, keep them in band, keep them in music, and keep advocating for the arts. We're going to get into the last chart. My kids at my school have started to realize there's some charts that are sentimental for me. They've even started to call them Mr. Shank charts. My colleagues would call them TJ charts. My band director was TJ Shank, who was the band director at Cane Bay before I took over after he had passed away, unfortunately, with cancer. But when I was his student back in Columbia, not at Cane Bay, he taught at AC Flora before. This is a song that we had actually performed. We had actually submitted it to a couple festivals, had gotten accepted to a jazz festival, if you've heard of the Savannah Jazz Festival. This chart is one of those that are really near and dear to me, and especially if you're like me and you love some good Boz Scaggs. Any Boz Scaggs fans in the room? This song is not a Boz Scaggs song, but it's written in the style of Boz Scaggs, and I hope you enjoyed the song. Boz, again, thank you for bringing your kids to camp. Continue to bring them to camp. Continue to have them in jazz. I hope you have a good rest of your evening. So, 1, 2, 3.
Let's hear it again for Bamba. Bamba. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. I hope you all have a great rest of the afternoon, and we hope to see you, or most of you, again next year at CSU Summer Music Camp.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan.